You know how last week we talked a lot about hot takes?
Like, yeah,
what's a hot take? What's not a hot take? What's so?
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. Here it comes. I got a question.
I'm listening.
So, actually, maybe I shouldn't.
No, you already did it. Come on now.
So I've been thinking about this, and here's why it's not. I'm going to throw something out there. I'm not saying they should do it. I'm not saying if they don't, they're wrong. I'm not saying that at all. But just like when Chris Paul said, "You coach," I thought, would he say that to a guy? I've been listening to this Chris Paul thing all morning. I'm sorry, Bay Area. You know what floated across my dome? What if the best thing for the team,
that is awesome,
is Steph Curry coming off the bench?
So you just shut your yapper.
Spadoni or Evan, if my keys are back there to the caddy, hand them to me so I can drive Steiny to Napa State. So, Steiny, that will never happen.
Really?
Come on.
There have been things that have happened that we didn't think were going to happen, and they end up happening. So, I'm not advocating
this is
for
a crazy take.
I don't think, you know what? In a crazy way, I don't think it is. And here's why. I mean, you could make it make sense, basketball. First of all, Curry would still play essentially the same amount of minutes. And of course he's on the floor at the end of games. But sometimes with the Warriors, I feel that Steph is such an explosive scorer, but he starts out games as a point guard.
Yeah.
And so don't the Warriors have a lot of first quarters where they're down?
Yeah.
And Steph hasn't really done much.
I got you.
Because he's playing like a point guard.
But what would CP3 do in his place at this juncture in his career who's not a scorer?
That's exactly right. He would get Clay going right away. He would get Wiggins going right away. Then he plays 6 minutes or 7 or whatever. He comes out, and now Curry goes into the game, and because he's coming in off the bench, he's aggressive.
Yeah.
So 6 minutes into the game, he comes in and he's aggressive. And then at the end of our first quarter now, it says Curry has 6 or 7 minutes, but he got 5 or 6 shots up right off the bat. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's, you know what? You're talking ball, but Steiny, the reality is, and Bonte said it on his way out, it matters who he told both of us. It matters who finishes. And he's right. But you guys are missing the component, I believe, of ego. These guys got egos, and we can sit here and say starting means something to these guys or not. Steph Curry's been a starter since forever.
Well,
that would never happen.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah,
why would you say it would never happen when we've got Chris Paul, who's never come off the bench, and Steph Curry, who has been willing to come off the bench at times in the past?
Because I feel like you're cheating the question, because when Steph Curry's come off the bench, it's been because he was injured and out. And I would never want to start a game, and I don't think it's ever happened, Steiny, with my best player not coming in to suffice to another.
Well, you know what? Best
player,
fair, but there's a lot of times where a sixth man is better than some starters.
And I got
like Andre Iguodala, when he was a sixth man, was better than some of the starters.
Oh, no, there was no doubt about it, Steiny, to the point to where he got Finals MVP.
Exactly.
Okay, so I got to say this. I got a couple white flags, and I got a Draymond Green join the show update. But I owe Chris Paul an apology. Steiny, I get mad because I told you guys that would listen. I root for him. I want him to get it. I know what he's meant to this league. But when they signed Dario Saric and that video went out with them in Phoenix, Bonte sent it to me. I thought I sent it to you guys on the Vine. And it was just a loop of him setting Dario up. It was music. I was like, oh, my God, this is Beethoven. Oh, my gosh. So now can he do that with the second unit? Maybe you rest Dre on the second unit and preserve him. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, Kuminga's going to be better. All that jazz you guys were selling me about guys being around Chris Paul, you become smarter and better. I'm on board. But now all of a sudden the dude that's supposed to distribute is subliminally saying, I don't want to come off the bench. Imagine CP3 saying, I'm not done. I want to start because it means something to me. How do you combat that as an organization? Hey, C, we need to talk to you. We need you to come off the bench.
They're going to have to figure it out.
No doubt about it.
They're going to have to figure it out. You know, and here we go. Steiny, that's disrespectful to Curry.
You're not saying he's not good enough. That's why.
Here's my question. If I don't care what anybody says, I bet you I can find some basketball people out there that would think, like me, that there's a chance that might be what's best for the team. There's a chance. I don't know if it is, or I'm not saying it is or not, but you can make some basketball sense for sure. Now, does that mean you do it? I'm not saying that. But to me, it's very intriguing that we're all thinking, well, if Chris Paul starts, it's Chris Paul, Clay, Steph, Wiggins, Draymond. Why? Why can't Draymond come off the bench and we start Looney? Like, why does it have to be? And Wiggins, to me, I don't.
But the question would be, why are we doing? We've won 4 championships, and I know we lost in the conference semifinals. Why are we going Joan Rivers? Why are we doing a facelift to our starting 5 to appease a guy?
No, not to appease a guy. I said
basketball.
If it were the best thing for the team, would you do it? If you thought it was the best thing to do, or you just don't even forget.
No,
and I get it. It's not.
I'll tell you what.
It's not a conventional thought. But
I would want you to coach the team that way. I would want to face Steph 6 minutes into the game as opposed to Steph starting. Like I think that would better my chances as an opponent.
Why?
Because we don't.
Steph gets to play against the second team.
There's just something about starting a game and just taking your heart and soul. Like
they never do it. They get off to bad starts. They aren't a good first quarter team, are they?
Well, it's not Steph's fault.
Well, but it's a dynamic. It's a dynamic.
But this is like for the all you guys. This is an issue, or we won't call it an issue because CP3 said it. We'll talk about it. But Steiny, this is curious to watch to see.
I agree.
I can't believe it.
I mean, when I look at the Golden State Warriors, and so let's just and let me play it. Let me say it again.
All right.
I think he wants to start. Okay. So if Chris Paul wants to start, who's not starting? Everybody says, well, Looney.
No doubt.
But why is there no doubt it has to be Looney? Why?
I hadn't thought about it. Because it's happened before.
Okay.
When JP started, who went to the bench, Steiny?
Right.
It was Kuminga.
What I'm saying, like, when I look at the Golden State Warriors, okay, Klay Thompson to me, is incapable of coming off the bench.
No doubt.
He just can't. Like, you would never even ask him that because of his personality. Like, he's off the board to me. Okay, what about Wiggins? Well, Wiggins, to me, isn't a spark plug player. So I would want him in the starting lineup as opposed to a sixth man because I don't want him to come into the game as a sixth man and just float. I want my sixth man to energize. I want my sixth man to give a look that we didn't have in our starting lineup. So I don't see Wiggins really as a non-starter.
Otis Bird III, Steiny, on YouTube says just what I've been thinking too, and I'm going to read it. Maybe because you asked about Looney, maybe because he's done it before and he never caused a ruckus.
I'm not saying that this would be the path of least resistance at all.
Well, I think Looney would be like, hey, whatever role you need me to, because he's done it.
Well, we know when he should have been starting. But that's why everybody just says, Looney. It's like, he won't eat it. Mike hates everything. Mikey, remember Mikey? Mikey, he won't eat it. He hates everything. Well, it's like Looney doesn't care. He doesn't need to start. Looney will start. He'll sit. He doesn't care. And I bet Looney doesn't care. But are we really going to base our starting lineups on who cares and who doesn't care if they're in the starting lineup? Like, is it fair to Looney that because he doesn't care, well, he's just got to be the guy that goes? I don't know. I'm just throwing some stuff out there, looking at this Golden State Warrior team, and I think there's. It's probably not going to happen, but I think you could.
I would bet that.
I can. Steiny, who are the fans coming to see? You can't introduce Steph in the starting lineup to the fans who are paying. See, if Steph comes off the bench, you're going on. Okay. Steiny's talking X in his nose, and the rest of you are talking locker room synergy. Steiny makes more sense for Clay to come off the bench, but he's less capable to me. He's less capable.
Because of his personality.
Yes. You got to, and
which is ego.
To me, you got to acknowledge that. Yeah. I think. So, I mean, to me,
I think you're selling Curry short.
So who's
I think you're selling Curry short.
Chris Paul and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think CP3's coming up. They got him to run and orchestrate the second unit. And the more I think about it, I get excited, and I can't wait to see it. If you're not going to be better putting him in the lineup, why would you do that?
Because you might be better.
Whose presence is that great?
You see, it feels like you don't allow for the fact that Chris Paul as a player, it may help everybody. Because does Chris Paul make guys better?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not always about points. It's about we're pretty good with Chris Paul because he's getting guys involved. And we still have Steph Curry who can either do that or play two guard. He can play with Paul. He doesn't have to play with Paul.
But Steiny, you got to take it to account. Like the Kobes, the Jordans, the Birds. Could you make a case if you wanted to about them somehow coming off the bench? I don't think you could. And then also this part. Chris Paul's been with Phoenix. He's been with a bunch of other teams. He's going to put people in position to win. But my point is they're going to have slow starts with Chris Paul in a basketball game.
Why would you say that?
Because
the Warriors are going to have slow starts if Chris Paul starts?
That's just across the board for any and every team. You can't. It sounds like you're blaming. You want to tell Steph to come off the bench.
Because don't make it that strong, please. Please don't make it that strong.
You're going Lee Majors. You're making Steph the fall guy.
No, I'm not.
Whoever you take out the lineup, you're essentially saying they're the fall guy for the slow starts. And it's about the team. Chris can throw the ball to Evan, and Evan can be wide open. And on any given day, if Evan is 1 for 10 that night, the ball ain't going in, and the team may get off to a slow start. But the ideology behind this of Stephen Wardell Curry coming off the bench, I feel like you're underselling his ego. I'm
not. I know Steph Curry has an ego.
Yeah.
I also know that he's among the most special superstars to ever play in our league. I'm not saying it should happen. But I'm also Looney going to the bench. I want to read this one. This Curry off the bench talk is just bait for phone calls. No,
why would you say that?
Well, we have no phone calls, so it's not bait for phone calls because I'm just putting it out there. Not enough scoring if CP starts. I know Guru will believe that, but I don't necessarily believe that.
You think you could find something? And I get you. You're not. It's etched in stone. I got a tattoo stir. But how many people you think in the basketball world would sign off on this? Or
I don't know. You'd need a lot. I mean, and you'd need it to make sense. I think, again, is it going to happen? Probably not.
Yeah, hell no, Steiny.
Probably not. It might happen at times. It might happen at times this year. And keep in mind, when I say Curry off the bench, his minutes aren't going down. He's going to play the same amount of minutes. And he's going to play in crunch time. Always. Always, always, always. In fact, there's a scenario in play here where Steph plays the whole fourth quarter if he's coming in off the bench. All right. 888-957-9570 is the number. We don't have to talk any more about that. I just throwing it out there because I don't think it's cut and dry. Who's going to start? Okay, 5-3-0. Let me ask you this, 5-3-0. More importantly, is Paul in the finishing lineup? Good question. I think he's got to be. And I'm not saying for Steph. Yeah. I think that he and Steph are going to be on the court. He has to be on the court late. He's smart. Man. He's a great foul shooter. He doesn't turn the ball over. So, I think the finishing lineup will definitely be Curry, CP3, Clay, Dre, and
Wiggins,
or Looney, maybe, I don't know, depending on the matchups. But all I'm saying is it doesn't seem like Chris Paul wants to come off the bench.